Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. And tonight's Raw was from the XL Energy Center in St. Paul, Minnesota. And I gotta say, tonight's Raw, I thought tonight's Raw was a good show, in my opinion. It was a very enjoyable show. It wasn't great by any means, it wasn't perfect, but I enjoyed it. It was an enjoyable Raw tonight. Good show. And the reason why I say that Raw was enjoyable and a good show tonight is because Vince McMahon wasn't at Raw tonight. You know, he's usually in the gorilla position, controlling the show. He wasn't there. According to reports, Triple H, Paul Heyman, of course, and Kevin Dunn were the only ones at Raw tonight. Vince was no longer there. So that's what made Raw into a good, enjoyable show tonight. When I saw that report that Vince wasn't there, I was like, oh, finally, we might possibly get a decent, enjoyable, good Raw tonight. And that's what we got. So, I mean, there were some things there to a little bit to nitpick on, but overall, the show didn't feel long. It didn't feel, 3 hours, like that long 3 hours that we're always used to every single week when the show, becomes boring and it drags. It just went fast. It was over like that. How the way I felt tonight's show flowed. But that's in my opinion. So let's go on with the Raw review. So Monday Night Raw opened up tonight with Roman Reigns coming out. Roman Reigns came out and a video package was shown of, Roman, the scaffolding falling on Roman, and the car, slamming into Roman's car. What we saw, they keep on playing, this who attacked Roman thing where, they placed the blame on Buddy Murphy, which he had, no intentions on doing that to Roman. And so Daniel Bryan and Rowan are starting their own investigation, and it's going to be revealed tomorrow on SmackDown, from Daniel Bryan and Rowan, who attacked, Roman Reigns. So we're going to get that tomorrow night on SmackDown. So we got a video package of that. Like, we haven't seen it, that's this like the 100th time that we've seen it. I mean, we know what happened. We don't need to, keep seeing, the same footage. We all saw it. So after the video package of that was over, Dolph Ziggler came out, made his way to the ring, got on the mic, and he ends up telling Roman that he's glad Roman is okay after all this, after everything, he went through. He says he doesn't get why he gets all the attention for it. So Dolph complains about getting speared 3 times by Goldberg. And he said he thought the rules were that, Goldberg could only do 1 spear every 6 months. And so then he talks about The Miz beating him with the figure 4, which is Ric Flair's move. So he complains about that. Dolph ends up putting Roman over, saying everybody knows it. Everybody knows it should have been him. It should have been me. And he ends up super kicking Roman. And so we had a match. Roman Reigns versus Dolph Ziggler, which was a decent match, in my opinion. It was back and forth between the both of them. And Roman ended up winning the match. Spear to Dolph Ziggler. So Roman ends up winning. All in all, decent match, in my opinion. Wasn't, long or boring. It was decent. It was enjoyable. Oh, and forgot to mention the commentary for tonight. We had Michael Cole and Renee Young. Corey Graves was on vacation. So Jerry the King Lawler, ended up filling in for Corey Graves, which it was cool to hear Jerry Lawler on commentary again. Always enjoyed Jerry Lawler's commentary ever since, I was a kid when he was commentating with Jim Ross, good old Jim Ross. So yeah, it was good hearing Jerry Lawler again on commentary. And then we get Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch ended up cutting a promo. She ends up saying last week Sasha beat her stupid with a chair. And she's like, people want to know why she keeps inviting the locker room to come after her. Becky says the answer is that she wants the best, most aggressive version of everyone coming after the women's title, the Raw Women's title. And she says she wants to fight everyone at their best. And most interesting, it's where Sasha is now. Becky goes on to say 4 months ago, Sasha ran away from WWE, crying, and then came back hotter than ever. So Becky goes on to say, what did Sasha do on her 4 months of vacation? She says Sasha did absolutely nothing. Sorry about that, but I was saying, Becky was saying Sasha did absolutely nothing on her 4-month vacation. And Becky goes on to say it only took her a couple of press interviews to make Sasha what she couldn't be herself. The greatest woman on the roster to, never great. Becky says Sasha can swing a chair and wear her dollar store glasses all they want. She goes on to say she did more for Sasha than Sasha's ever done for herself. Becky goes on to say this is a cat and mouse game, and she's going to give Sasha something to run home and cry about. So it was decent promo from Becky Lynch. Of course, we're probably going to get, Becky Lynch versus Sasha. Probably at Clash of Champions. Probably WWE is going to book that at Clash of Champions for Becky versus Sasha to have the Raw Women's Championship on the line. And then we had Jerry Lawler. He was in the ring. He was going to have his King's Court with Sasha Banks. He says before he brings out Sasha, he wants to talk about the King of the Ring. And yes, the King of the Ring. We had the first round matches tonight, which was pretty cool to see. King of the Ring. I love the concept. It's good that WWE end up bringing it back. But Jerry Lawler says he wants to talk about the King of the Ring. He goes on to say it's one of his favorite things in WWE. He goes on to say it's a launching pad for legends like Bret Hart, like Stone Cold Steve Austin, Brock Lesnar. And he says 16 top stars are going to battle it out to reign supreme. So he ends up making predictions of, Cedric Alexander and Ricochet to be the Raw semifinalists in the King of the Ring tournament. And he goes on to say his predictions for SmackDown. But he then gets interrupted. The lights go out. And Jerry Lawler sells it, like he was getting out of the ring because he knew, the Fiend was coming. So Jerry Lawler got out of the ring. He made his way onto the stage. The lights go all the way out. And we see the Fiend, Bray Wyatt. He appears on the stage. He's behind Jerry Lawler. And Jerry Lawler doesn't know that the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, is behind him. And as soon as Jerry Lawler turns around, the Fiend ends up locking in the mandible claw on Jerry Lawler. And that's how the segment ended. But cool to see Bray Wyatt, the Fiend there. Really loving what WWE is doing with Bray Wyatt. Really loving it. Let's hope they keep up that pace and not fuck him up, because I read a report, guess it's a bullshit article, saying that they were going to tone down Bray Wyatt's The Fiend and make it more family friendly. From watching it tonight, I guess that was not the case, because that article was fucking bullshit. Yeah, where was the tone down to make it family friendly? Wasn't there. And I'm glad that they didn't change it. I'm glad that article was fucking bullshit. So there you go. Keep making Bray Wyatt like that. I don't want WWE fucking it up. Let's keep the pace up good with Bray Wyatt. But fortunately, Jerry Lawler, because of this, he had to be rushed out of the arena. I guess he was taken to a hospital. And so, because of Jerry Lawler, suffering that from Bray Wyatt, we got Vic Joseph on the commentary team for Raw. And, Vic Joseph, he's from 205 Live, does commentary for 205 Live, does commentary for NXT UK. And, it was good hearing him on commentary. I thought he did a very good job tonight. Looked like Michael Cole was letting Vic Joseph do more of the commentating than he always does, than what Michael Cole always does on commentary every week. It looked like he gave Vic Joseph a chance to main commentate for the show tonight, which I thought that was really good. So then we had a tag team match. Ricochet and The Miz versus Baron Corbin and Drew McIntyre. And this was a enjoyable match. Really enjoyed it. Even though we have, Baron Corbin in there, but he was taken with Drew McIntyre. But Drew McIntyre, of course, always good in the ring. And Ricochet, very entertaining. The crowd was behind Ricochet here. And Ricochet and The Miz ended up winning the match. Ricochet ended up pinning the recoil to Baron Corbin. So there you go. Ricochet and The Miz end up winning the match. These guys are going to be in the King of the Ring tournament for Raw. But overall, it was a decent match. It was an enjoyable match. Then we had Michael Cole. He introduces Booker T. Booker T was on Skype, just like how last week was with Stone Cold Steve Austin on Skype. So they were just discussing Bray Wyatt as the Fiend, taking out the Hall of Famers. And then they talk about the King of the Ring, and Booker T predicts that Drew McIntyre is going to win the King of the Ring this year. So that's his prediction. But it was meh, in my opinion. It was just filler for the time. Then we have Braun Strowman versus AJ Styles, which was okay. Braun Strowman, just dominates through the match. End up doing shoulder tackles to Gallows and Anderson on the outside. But the match went to a disqualification because Gallows was in the ring. He ends up super kicking Strowman. Post-match, you had Gallows and Anderson. They end up putting Strowman into the ring post. They did a kick, roundhouse kick into the post to Strowman. And they thought about hitting the Magic Killer, but Seth Rollins ended up coming out. Seth Rollins came out and make the save. Seth Rollins hits a lariat to Karl Anderson. Super kicks Luke Gallows. And ends up clearing the ring. And Seth Rollins ends up turning to Strowman. He helps up Strowman. He shakes his hand. Seth Rollins ends up shaking Strowman's hand. Strowman ends up refusing to let go at first. I was like, okay, they're setting it up right here. And, because it was rumored saying that at Clash of Champions, it's going to be Seth Rollins versus Braun Strowman, and the Universal title is going to be on the line. So at first when I saw this, I'm like, okay, they're going to be setting this up now. But it ended up becoming clear that Strowman is just doing this as a friendly reminder of his presence. And, there was a smile that Strowman, had across his face. But, we're possibly going to get that. We're possibly going to get Seth Rollins versus Braun Strowman for the Universal Championship at Clash of Champions. But something else happens tonight, which I'll get to. So then we had Samoa Joe versus Cesaro. King of the Ring, first round match. And this was another good match. This was a very enjoyable match. Both back and forth between Joe and Cesaro. There are points where Cesaro was trying to do the Cesaro swing to Joe, but Joe was too heavy for Cesaro to swing. Cesaro actually did manage to swing Joe, but couldn't do it for a long time. He only did like 2 swings to Joe. Tried to do a neutralizer to Joe, but didn't end up getting it. And Joe wins the match. Coquina clutch on Cesaro. Cesaro ended up tapping out. So Joe is now moving on to the semifinals in the King of the Ring. Which this is a good win for Joe. He needed this win, in my opinion. But overall, it was a good match between the both of them. And I'm really glad that Joe was moving on. Because he deserves it. Sorry about that again, but like I was saying, Joe, needed this win. So I'm really glad that he's moving forward in the King of the Ring tournament, going to the semifinals. And then we get when Raw came back from the commercial, we got a YouTube clip. It was showing Elias in the recording studio. And Drake Maverick was in disguise and showed Drake Maverick trying to win the Jobber Ninja Turtle 24/7 title from Elias. But Elias ended up kicking out of it. Elias ended up beating the hell out of Drake Maverick. So that was the other clip. If you go on YouTube, you might see it, but did not care for this. This 24/7 shit. Then we saw Elias in the ring. I was about ready to pick up my remote and mute the TV. But, he sings us a song, and he gets interrupted by these noises. These noises that sound like while he was trying to speak. And he says we're about to see his farewell performance. He says he can't risk being out here live every week as the 24/7 champion. He said that first he's going to leave us with an emotional ballad that we'll never forget. And, we're still hearing the like that. And he berates his tech, and he demands a change of guitars. And the tech refuses to give the guitar to him. And the lights come up, and we see the tech person is actually R-Truth. And the referee was in there, and we got a small package from R-Truth. R-Truth goes to pin Elias. Elias ends up kicking out of it, and we had Elias kick out of the scissors kick because R-Truth ended up hitting the scissor kick to Elias. Kicked out of that, and R-Truth is frustrated. He eyeballs one of the guitars, and Elias ends up getting out of the ring before he gets hit with the guitar, so ran off like a pussy, and that was it. But garbage. It was shit. Like I keep saying, keep the 24/7 title stuff on social media, on YouTube, on Twitter, Facebook. Keep it on there. And WWE still manages to put this shit on TV. Well, moving on. I don't want to talk anymore about this 24/7 shit. So we had Charlie Caruso. She was interviewing Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio thanks Charlie Caruso for her time, and he wants to let everyone know what's going on. And there were reports today that Rey Mysterio was going to have this big announcement. There was talk about this being a retirement announcement, but he goes on to say that he's very fortunate to have his family and the career that he's had. He said he remembers his uncle training him as a boy, and also meeting all kinds of folks that he calls not just his fans, but his friends. Mysterio says recently things haven't been clicking. And he says what Andrade Cien Almas did was a disgrace. Ray then goes on to talk about, what an insult it is to have your mask ripped off. He says, but what hurts more is that he hasn't been able to do anything about it. Mysterio goes on to say, usually in the ring, he can see what his next moves are. But lately, his body hasn't been responding to that vision. He says his biggest fear is that now his injuries have finally caught up to him. He says that he knows that this day comes to everyone at some point. He says it just didn't expect it would come to him. He says he understands now that it's time for him to hang up the mask and let the new generation of stars make their wave. So we see Mysterio, he starts taking his mask off, and his son Dominic comes up to him. He asks him to hear him out. Dominic ends up telling his father that when he debuted as his partner. And he wants to keep the chain unbroken from his father to, Rey Mysterio, Jr. And he says he wants to make his debut alongside his father. He asks his father to keep going and promises to make him proud. He doesn't want his father to retire. He wants him to stay in WWE. Ray says he'll do it for him because he loves him. And, they hug it out. But, I thought Dominic's promo was okay. But, needs a little work from him. But, it would be interesting if Ray wanted to retire, if Rey goes into retirement, they should have a father versus son match. Him, Rey Mysterio versus Dominic, and if Dominic won, Rey passes the mask down, and Dominic could wear the mask, have the mask passed down. I could see that, I could see that happening, in the future. Hopefully they do that, when it's Rey Mysterio's time to retire. Hopefully, that would be a very good match to me to see, in my opinion. But like I said, Dominic's promo was okay. And then we had the New Day versus the Revival in a tag team match. This is basically copy and paste from the main event of SmackDown last week. We already saw this with New Day and the Revival last week on SmackDown. There was no change or anything that happened in the match here. But the match ended in a disqualification. Sorry about that, but I was saying the match ended in a disqualification because Randy Orton came out, ended up pinning the RKO to Big E. And post-match, Randy Orton ends up standing tall with the Revival. They jaw at Big E. Kofi Kingston comes out to make the save. Kofi ends up taking Orton out. He ends up brawling with the Revival. Kofi ends up in a diving double lariat, but Orton gets the RKO on Kofi. Randy ends up drawing Kofi up. Xavier tries to make the save, but Xavier gets caught by the Revival. Scott Dawson ends up blocking in the figure four to Xavier's legs. Orton ends up directing traffic, pulls Kofi over so Orton can sit on Kofi and make him watch what they're going to do to what the Revival is going to do to Xavier. And we see Dash Wilder. He leaps off the top with a stomp. He ends up breaking Xavier's leg, and Xavier was screaming in pain. Looked like the stomp really broke his leg. Xavier might have after this a torn ACL, may have a torn ACL, and basically that was what happened. So Xavier was screaming, in agony, and Orton makes Kofi watch, and basically they stand tall, Orton and Revival, and I could see WWE possibly making a stable out of this with Orton and the Revival. I would say that they probably might do that to make the Revival sign a contract for more years with the WWE. So I could sense WWE doing that. I think Orton and the Revival would make a good a good faction. And when Orton was directing the Revival, it kind of brought back memories to me from when Orton did that when it was with Legacy, when it was him, Cody Rhodes, and Ted DiBiase Jr. It just gave me flashbacks to that. So it's basically possibly with Orton and the Revival, they could be Legacy 2.0, in my opinion. But overall, it was crazy. It was crazy seeing Dash Wilder go off the top, breaking Xavier's leg, and hearing Xavier screaming in that, with that pain. Then we have Michael Cole. He was interviewing Sasha Banks Sasha was backstage. And Sasha says she liked to explain from the very beginning. She says last week she looked in the mirror and she told herself that blue is her color. And she said it's all over social media how she looks good and she's better than ever. Sasha says she looks good and feels even better. And Michael Cole says nobody's talking about her hair, but rather her return to WWE to attack Natalya and Becky Lynch. And then she ends up saying, "You're welcome." And she ends up leaving the interview chair. So, short interview with Sasha. Then we have Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross versus Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. Women's tag team match. The match itself, it was meh in my opinion, but it was good. It was cool seeing Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose go up against Alexa and Nikki. But Nikki got the win. Nikki Cross ends up hitting the swinging neck breaker to Sonya Deville. So Alexa and Nikki win. Overall, to me, the match itself, it was meh. Then we had the second match in the King of the Ring first round. Cedric Alexander versus Sami Zayn. This was a boring match. This could have been a decent, enjoyable match, along with Cedric Alexander being in it because he's highly entertaining. And there's reports stating that Paul Heyman is a fan of Cedric Alexander. Cedric, is could be a Paul Heyman guy after this because, like I said, news that Paul Heyman really is a fan of Cedric Alexander. But Cedric got the win. Lumbar check on Sami Zayn. So Cedric Alexander wins, moving on to the semifinals in the King of the Ring tournament. Can we officially say that Sami Zayn is now buried? He hasn't won one match since coming back, since he made his return, the Raw after WrestleMania. We can all say Sami Zayn is officially buried. Officially fucking buried. Then after that, we had the Street Profits. Montez Ford, Angelo Dawkins. They were watching backstage. They were looking over at the King of the Ring brackets. Montez says he's 2 for 2. And Angelo Dawkins ends up tearing his up. Throws it away. He says because he got Cesaro going to the finals. So the both of them talk up the rest of their first round matches, their predictions. And Dawkins ends up stopping short to wonder why they don't have a tag team King of the Ring tournament. Like a Kings of the Ring tournament. And Montez says it's because they're already kings. So basically that was that. Then we see the OC, Gallows and Anderson. They were complaining about how unfair this title match is because it was officially announced earlier that it was going to be Gallows and Anderson versus Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman for the Raw Tag Team Championships. So AJ Styles comes in. He tells Gallows and Anderson they're right. But Styles says to them that this is an opportunity to show that the OC are great. And that Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman are no match for the OC. And then we see them throwing up the two sweets. So we had that. Then we had Natalya. She was cutting a promo. Her arm was in a sling, and she goes on to say that she just got done seeing the WWE doctors again, and how she expected this to be an emotional week. But, she didn't expect Sasha. She didn't expect Sasha to come back. Natalya goes on to say that Sasha was one of her closest friends, and she can't wrap her head around now. She'd attack. And then we see Sasha ends up blindsiding Natalya. Sasha beats Natalya up. Sasha ends up telling Natty to go to hell. And she ends up saying, say hi to her daddy for her. And she ends up attacking Natty by slamming her elbow inside, like a drawer that was backstage. So that was basically what happened. And then we had the main event. Braun Strowman and Seth Rollins versus Luke Gallows and Karl Anderson. Tag team match for the Raw Tag Team Championships. And this was a decent match from them. It was cool seeing Strowman and Rollins teaming together. And, Rollins is, was still bandaged up. And, he went for his moves. And, the pain was still bothering him. He did the blockbuster from the top. Pain was still bothering Rollins. And Braun Strowman, he was doing his thing. He was shoulder tackling Gallows and Anderson. Shoulder tackle, I think, AJ Styles. And Braun Strowman and Seth Rollins got the win. We had Strowman hitting the run and power slam. I think it was to Gallows. And then Seth Rollins did the stomp to Karl Anderson. And Braun Strowman and Seth Rollins win the match. And they are the new Raw Tag Team Champions. And, it was shocking, though. I wasn't expecting Strowman and Rollins to win it. But after this week, I sense that, or as the weeks go, I sense that Strowman and Rollins are not going to be the Raw Tag Team Champions, for this period of time. Because rumor has it, like I said earlier, that the rumored match at Clash of Champions is going to be Braun Strowman versus Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship. So who knows if WWE is going to do that? I sense that coming because one of them has to turn heel, whether it's Braun Strowman or whether it's Seth Rollins. To me, I think Seth Rollins should go heel. Everybody has been claiming for WWE to turn Seth Rollins heel again because people are saying that he's getting stale as a babyface. And I think it's time, that we see Seth Rollins as a heel again. I mean, he was entertaining as a heel. Braun Strowman, they did that one time, making him a heel. It was for a short time. They only did that to do it for Roman, because it was Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. So they decided to make Braun Strowman heel, which didn't work out. So, to me, if they were to do it, I hope WWE makes Seth Rollins a heel again. But it was shocking to see Strowman and Rollins winning the Raw Tag Team Championships. And that's how Raw ended tonight. So, but all in all, like I said, Raw was a good show. It was a very enjoyable show. Wasn't great or perfect, but it was enjoyable. To be because Vince wasn't at Raw tonight. So anyways, that's it for my review of tonight's Monday Night Raw. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. And definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, And until next video, which will be the SmackDown review. So until that review, I'll see you all later.